at various levels, I've had journalist heroes. I.F. Stone in politics, for example, in the United States. His great gift as a journalist was that he actually read all the congressional records and knew when everybody was lying and when they weren't lying. He didn't engage in exchange of bon mots with people we now call pundits. Why I mention I.F. Stone is that it reminds me of a kind of watchword I've tried to live by all my own life. Certainly my father did as a writer. It goes back to Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold said, the job of the poet is to try and see the thing for what it is in and of itself. It's really worth thinking about, particularly in these days of an information explosion in which nobody seems to be looking at the thing they're describing. It seems to be enough to just say it, and if you say it, it's true. What I felt about Joe in his writing in his column was that he was actually trying to see people for who they were in and of themselves. He brought to that, I recognize, something that I shared, my temperament. I'm a great believer in temperament. A certain anger. There was an anger at the way people who ran things ran them. If you look at my work at all, I seem to have an antipathy to the police. It goes all the way back to the first time a cop hit me when I was 9 years old. I don't like people in authority, generally speaking. And I sensed this immediately in the columns of Joe, that he didn't like the way people in authority ran the lives of people who were defenseless and voiceless. And he became, in a very real way, their voice, and therefore a storyteller through his column. I like to think that all good writing, all the way to critical writing included, is a form of storytelling. And Joe is a natural storyteller. The Irish poet John Montague once told me when I was younger in Paris that the mark of all good writing was you picked up a sense of generosity of spirit in the writer. He didn't mean something sentimental. He didn't mean that you couldn't be enraged and still be generous. The generosity involved trying to get inside the person you were writing about, trying to represent, or if it was simply your lyric poem, to not impose yourself on the poem, but to, in effect, disappear into the poem, to become the poem. Sounds a little artsy-fartsy, but it's the real deal. And I always felt in Joe's columns that he was doing his very best, by temperament, not by design, to be inside the lives of the people that he was describing. And he described them with energy and vitality because he was driven, as I say, by a kind of justified anger.